We invite you to just close your eyes, relax, rest in the presence and hold space.
Namo Namaha. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. 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 Oh
Namaste.
Namaste.
Welcome to our weekly online Satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that means community of truth. Essentially, wherever two or more people on the spiritual path of awakening and transformation come together to share their energy, their presence, their journey, we have a Satsang. Sort of a fancy name for a spiritual community, which all of us need to be a part of one. There's only so much that can be accomplished on the spiritual journey all by yourself, which is like nothing. We need each other, and we need lots of grace. So find a spiritual community close by where you can actually come together with people physically that share your experience of awakening and transformation, the flowering of the heart. You'll have more in common with them than members of your own temple or church or whatever your background, religion, or spiritual tradition might be. The differing beliefs and teachings that we have between different groups seem to dissolve once our hearts really start to flower and we awaken. But you're always welcome to join us here online every Monday at night at this time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Time has become...
weird.
Yes, just a concept. Anyway, we're glad you're here. We're working with many other light workers on the planet at this time, seeking to awaken as many human beings as possible, as quickly as possible. We need to shift from this global insanity rooted in competition, conflict, and war into a new world that's rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace, which is the flip side of competition, conflict, and war. Cooperation, harmony, and peace. Now, we've been trying to do that, the human family, for countless millennia. And here we are. It can't be achieved through philosophical movements or religious movements or political movements for sure. It only happens when the collective consciousness of humanity begins to shift from duality into the living experience, the collective experience of oneness. And that happens as we awaken from the illusion of duality. That happens one person at a time, but when enough of us have begun to awaken, the teeter-totter's going to tip from division and polarity and duality into oneness, unity, peace. And many of us on the planet now are working exclusively, almost, toward that outcome. And as a tool, we employ something that we call the Flowering Heart Blessing. It's a transmission of divine consciousness, enlightened consciousness of pure unconditional love and divinity. And that is a gift from the divine that is intended to catalyze the process of awakening and the flowering of the heart in the receiver. There are many powerful forms of blessing at work in the world today. All the great mystical traditions, from Christianity to Tibetan Buddhism to Taoism to Zen, they all have Hinduism. All of them somewhere have a transmission of enlightened consciousness. It used to be very hidden in many traditions and difficult to access. Now, so many spiritual teachers are sort of coming out of hiding and sharing the direct transmission of awakened consciousness. This is one of those forms. What sets the Flowering Heart Blessing, we feel, apart is that when the divine revealed it to us 8 years ago, he told me, or she told us, or whatever it is told us, that it's directly from source. Tell people this is not filtered through an avatar or a saint or a spiritual master or a hierarchy or religious tradition. It comes directly from the heart of the divine source. And the divine said, it's a free gift to whomever I choose to give it to as a gift of grace. So don't charge people for it. Give it away. And as for the initiation part and becoming initiated as a blessing giver, tell them that when they receive one of these blessings from me, they are already initiated. All they need to do is invite me to flow through them and hold someone or someones with compassion, with love in their hearts. If someone is in your physical presence, you need informed consent because it's going to do something to them. Something's going to begin to unfold the flowering of divine consciousness in the heart. And if they consent to that, you can lightly put your hands on the top of their head, just invite the divine to come through and get out of the way. Because there's nothing for you or me to do. We're not doing anything. We're just serving as instruments for divine grace to flow. So please join us tonight. You're already soaking in it. Just invite the divine to pour it through you to all the participants with us this evening and those that will be tuning in the days ahead, especially between now and next Monday. But some people go back and look at these a year or two later and they're surprised. I don't know why, but many are surprised that it feels like it's live, like the energy is here and now, because Spirit is always here and now. There's no time, there's no separation in space or time in Spirit. So, thank you for being here. Help us share the blessing. And I don't think we have any other announcements.
Nope.
Yay. So, two things. Please give us a like or a love if you happen to be on Facebook Live, a thumbs up or a heart, because we can come in after the satsang's over and see who is with us tonight. If you're on Vimeo, you have to enter something in the chat. Just say, hi, it's me, and tell us your name, and we'll send you a little extra hug and blessing at the end. And that's it. So bring on the questions. We open it to questions and answers on the spiritual journey, the path of awakening, divine union, transformation, pre-life, afterlife, during life, meditation, prayer, anything related to the spiritual journey. When you ask your questions, then it moves the divine to inspire us with things we can share with you that will give all of us clarity and understanding. That's your role to play in the satsang. So while we wait for the questions, just ask inside, ask your inner teacher. Is there something that you might ask in the satsang tonight? Something that maybe you've been puzzling over, thinking about. But in the meantime, here are 15 quotes on embracing your inner introvert. You may not have even known you had one. I get these interesting little articles and quotes from a website called inspiringquotes.com. And some of them I just love. These were gathered by Tony Donnell, an English writer of nonfiction and fiction living on the edge of the Amazon jungle. Oh, Tony. I love the Amazon. So here it is. Introvert and extrovert are basic personality types that arose from the theories of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung in 1910. Jung defined introversion as an, quote, orientation in life through subjective psychic contents, unquote. And extroversion as, quote, concentration of interests on the external object. So introversion is orientation in life through subjective psychic contents. Extroversion is concentration of interest on the external object. In other words, introverts tend to be directed inwards toward their own thoughts and feelings, while extroverts focus their attention outwards toward other people and the outside world. In reality, most people are not wholly one or the other, instead falling somewhere between Jung's two types. This is known as ambiversion. Never heard of that before. Ambiverts, more or less, have a balance between introversion and extroversion, with either tendency becoming more dominant depending on the situation. Being an introvert and being shy are often considered synonymous, but that's not always the case. An introvert might not be keen on going to a party with a large group of people, but could be perfectly happy having a conversation with just one person or a small group, even if they're strangers. Still, introverts are more likely to enjoy solitary activities such as reading and writing. And while extroverts actively seek out social gatherings and thrive when around other people, introverts often reach a stage where socializing becomes a mental and/or physical drain, at which point they seek solitude to relax and recharge. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. The benefits of spending time alone are important for anyone, as these quotes from famous figures attest. So here we go. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Marcus Aurelius. Nothing can be accomplished without solitude. I have made a kind of solitude for myself which nobody is aware of. Pablo Picasso. How much better is silence, the coffee cup, the table? How much better to sit by myself like the solitary seabird that opens its wings on the stake? Let me sit here forever with bare things, this coffee cup, this knife, this fork, things in themselves, myself being myself. Virginia Woolf. To be a loner, that gives you time to wonder, to search for the truth. Have holy curiosity. Make your life worth living. Albert Einstein. Originality thrives in seclusion, free of outside influences beating upon us to cripple the creative mind. Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born. Nikola Tesla. The more powerful and original a mind, the more it will incline towards the religion of solitude. Aldous Huxley. I restore myself when I'm alone. Marilyn Monroe. Writing is something you do alone. It's a profession for introverts who want to tell you a story but don't want to make eye contact while doing it. John Green, author. Introverts live in two worlds. We visit the world of people, but solitude in the inner world will always be our home. Jen Granerman, author. There is a tremendous difference between alone and lonely. You could be lonely in a group of people. I like being alone. I like eating by myself. I go home at night and just watch a movie or hang out with my dog. I have to exert myself and really say, oh God, I've got to see my friends because I'm too content by myself. Drew Barrymore. At school, you might have been prodded to, quote, come out of your shell. That noxious expression, which fails to appreciate that some animals naturally carry shelter everywhere they go, and some humans are just the same. Susan Cain, lecturer and author. I didn't want to be an actor because I thought an actor had to be an extrovert. Somebody who loved to tell jokes and talk and be a raconteur. And I was something of an introvert. Clint Eastwood. I see enough of humanity at the racetracks, the supermarkets, gas stations, freeways, cafes, etc. This can't be helped. But I feel like kicking myself in the ass when I go to gatherings, even if the drinks are free. It never works for me. I've got enough clay to play with. People empty me. I have to get away to refill. Charles Bukowski. Blessed are those who do not fear solitude, who are not afraid of their own company, who are not always desperately looking for something to do, something to amuse themselves with, something to judge. Paulo Coelho, author. I think introverts can do quite well. If you're clever, you can learn to get the benefits of being an introvert, which might be, say, being willing to go off for a few days and think about a tough problem, read everything you can, push yourself very hard to think out on the edge of that area. Bill Gates. Interesting group of people. Mm-hmm. So, as the author of this article said, Tony Donnell, most of us are not purely introvert or extrovert. We fall in the spectrum somewhere between them. I think Suzanne tends to be more extroverted.
Definitely.
Loves the company of people, loves to socialize, just loves to have stuff going on all the time. I'm more of an introvert. I love solitude and silence. I love eating a meal alone or spending time alone in meditation. I like quiet, and I need some of that every day, quiet and solitude. But that's not the whole me, obviously. Here I am talking on the internet. I was painfully introverted when I was a young man. And because of my calling to be a spiritual teacher and a preacher, I had to come out, draw out the grace and open my mouth and begin to speak. And once I broke through the barrier, I love speaking to groups and teaching and doing spiritual processes with lots of people. I mean, the more the merrier. 5,000 is more fun than 500. I just love it. But you know, when it's over, people may not understand. Let's go out and eat. Let's walk down the busy sidewalk in Chicago or New York City and sit in a sidewalk cafe. And I'm like, I need to go back to my cell now and just close the doors and recharge and have some solitude and silence to just be. So both things are important. St. Francis, the Franciscans were an unusual religious order. They were monks, the early Franciscans, and still are considered monastics, but they didn't live in monasteries. They wandered in the open highways and slept in the woods and did street theater. And Francis told his brothers, you need to spend time every day in contemplative silence and solitude, and you need to spend some time every day being among the people, pouring out the richness, the light, the inspiration you received during the contemplation and the silence and the solitude. So they had a very balanced existence between those two and still cultivate that charism today. So I'm a Franciscan. I love that balance in life between contemplation and action. But sometimes we introverts, contemplatives, don't understand more active souls, more extroverted souls. How can you live that way, Suzanne? And sometimes extroverts don't understand introverts. Why do you want to, be why don't you want to go to the party? You know, it's like, so I thought that many of these quotes brought out various sides of that issue. And some were surprising, like that Clint Eastwood was such an introvert and liked hanging out alone, coming home and just being alone with his dog, that he did not want to be an actor. Funny, I would have thought of him, you know, with all of his male bravado as being a super extroverted guy. But I think when those of us that are contemplative and introverted manage to draw ourselves out into creative activity in the outer world, we find a tremendous balance that can be a real source of power. So, you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay. Alrighty.
Actually,
Go for it.
I think that's one of the benefits of being around people that are different than you. When I first got together with Michael, I didn't care for meditation. I didn't care for solitude or contemplation at all. I just really didn't appreciate it. I didn't see the value in it. I was always going. I'm still always going, but I do have a lot of quiet space and quiet time in the midst of the going. So that's something that I've really benefited from our relationship. And you get out and probably do more extroverted stuff than you would if you were with another introvert.
True. You know, speaking of relationships, often people think, if I could just find someone like me, I'm so weird. If I could just find someone like me, we would get along great. And you know, that's often not true. Because, like magnets, 2 positive poles repel, 2 negative poles repel. With a magnet, you want something exactly the opposite. So a positive and a negative, boom. And with human personalities and inclinations, when you put 2 dynamically contrasting inclinations together, it forms this dynamic exchange of energy that can produce great creativity and passion. So don't think you got to find someone like yourself. We're spending our whole life just trying to deal with ourselves. Why would you want another one of them? So Joanne asks, I have a rocking energy in my spine when I meditate, or while in meditation. Should I force it to stop? Absolutely not. Don't force anything at all, especially when we're talking about energy, especially when we're talking about the energy in the spine, the Kundalini energy, the inner dragon. When that energy begins to move, flow with it. People say, you know, I want it to stop. How do I stop it? I don't even want to tell you. It's so challenging just to get that energy activated and rising. We don't want to stop it and stuff it back down. In fact, you can't. That's the real thing. You can't. You just need to flow with it and go for the ride. If it's literally a rocking energy that's causing your body to rock, or forward or back or side to side or in a spiral, that often happens to people when the energy awakens and begins to rise up their spines. And that's a good thing. Don't try to stop it. No.
Another thing too is that rocking motion, there's actually a pulse that our cerebral spinal fluid has that goes up the spinal column and helps to exchange all of the information, and is very healing. So if you're feeling a pulsing or a rocking feeling, that's a good sign, because the more that we've got the cerebral spinal fluid moving, the better it is for our brain and thinking, our neural network, and our longevity.
I wondered if, now I'm going to show my complete ignorance, but I've often admired, I've had a number of Orthodox Jewish friends, and when they pray, they're like this during the prayers, and I don't know if there's some philosophical idea or religious idea behind that. I always just thought it was the Spirit moving them in this beautiful way that's that's moving that energy through their being. Yeah. So my master, my Taoist master, one of his statements that he's famous for, speaking of the Taoist way of life, flowing with the balance of nature and yin and yang, is Taoist way, not forced. So whenever that word, should I force it, comes up, no. We can't force awakening. We can't force anything that comes with the unfolding of spirit. And we can actually do damage to ourselves trying to force things one way or another. So just relax. Sounds good. Oh, you say, force myself to be still? No. You know, if it's really fidgeting and it's like anxiety energy, let it go. And yes, just be still. Let it go through you. But I was thinking in terms of the energy moving you. That's a beautiful thing. If it's the agitation of the mind, like constantly distracting you into changing your position and moving, let it go. Don't force it, just let it relax and keep returning to the center, to the stillness. That, as Suzanne said, even in the midst of activity, dynamic activity in the outer world, she carries that peaceful stillness within her at the center of her being. That's what we need to do in meditation. We don't need to stop the whirlwind that may be going through the mind. We don't need to stop the noise that's going on around us. We just need to settle into the eye in the center of the hurricane, which is always there, that still place in the center, awaiting your discovery. And one of the great purposes of meditation is to cultivate the ability to do that and to take it with you everywhere you go. Michael Christopher says, is there a better way to learn and grow besides making stupid mistakes? Yeah, sure. But generally, we only learn and go through making stupid mistakes. If we're not making a mistake and we do it right, basically we're just proving that we already knew how to do it. It's only when we make mistakes that we have the opportunity to realize, oh, this isn't the way to do this. There must be something else, and then we can grow through that. And I know you know that. We often try to share with people that God, the supreme being of the universe, is not scandalized when you make a mistake. The word that in the Christian Bible, from Greek, that is translated sin, it's so sad. The word is hamartia. And hamartia is an archery term, a Greek word that means to miss the bullseye with an arrow. Now, first of all, we're talking about someone that is trying to hit the bullseye. It is perhaps even a skilled archer that is shooting for the bullseye, doing the best of their ability. They let loose and they miss the bullseye. That is hamartia. And that's translated sin. The only way you're going to become good as an archer is to probably miss hundreds of times, right? And every time you miss and you learn a little bit more and you correct a little bit more your technique, your aim, you get better and better and better at hitting the bullseye. If we're smart enough to know that, don't you think God is smart enough to know that? So I completely take exception to a lot of religious teaching that there's a phrase in the Old Testament that said, I won't even tell you where it is because I don't want you to find it. It says, God is angry with the sinner every day. That is just so sad. And no, God is grieved. He grieves with us when we miss. And the divine wants to help us to hone our aim, to learn to stay on the mark and move forward into the light. And there's no point. I mean, if you're a parent and your child is trying to learn to ride a bicycle, you take the training wheels off, they're doing absolutely their best, and they fall on the bike. Are you mad at them? You might be worried for them. You might be alarmed, concerned, not wanting them to be hurt. But what kind of a parent would be angry that their kid, fell off their bike trying to learn to ride it? So I think that says a lot about how we learn making stupid mistakes. And maybe, and that word stupid, that betrays our tendency to judge ourselves. Darn it, you're so stupid, Mike. Why do you keep doing that? I've had that critical voice speaking to me ever since, I guess, one of my parental relationships and my early experience of school. If you screwed up, I was like, oh, you dummy, what's wrong with you? And that kind of programming can stay with you through life. And even if you transcend that programming, it may come and talk to you. Oh, there's that one saying you're being stupid again. No, you're not.
There is also the factor that the more that we connect with the divine presence and have a dialogue going in internally with your divine, we can always check in with that voice before we make decisions and before we act upon our thoughts or feelings or anything that we're contemplating doing, and just check in a little bit. Is this going to be for my highest good? Is this going to be for everybody's highest good? And is there a way that I could do this differently? If the answer is no to that, you can always just say, okay, well, maybe I can find a better way to do this. And because oftentimes we're just making choices and decisions based on what we've learned in our programming and conditioning and our emotions. So when we start to think differently and think in terms of the greater good or my greater good, then we start to look at it from a different perspective, and we're less likely to make the mistakes that we would have made before.
I don't think, like Bill Gates said, think through it real hard. I don't think we're going to think our way through the woods. I think it's listening to the heart, the guy. And to not listen to the still small voice that's shouting in your heart, that is stupid. But it's the wrong word. There's a difference in feeling between stupid and ignorance.
Right.
See, if we don't know something already, then we're ignorant of that. We're not stupid, we're just ignorant, and we're learning and growing. So we really need to look at the charges in the words that we use to talk about ourselves and others.
Right.
Okay. More writes, I have changed from proposing goals to achieve to open myself to accept what the divine wants to bring into my life. Can I consider it progress in my spiritual path? In a word, yes.
Yes, that's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Perfect.
Because the more that we let that voice take over, the more that we ask and look for and listen to the guidance of the divine, the easier everything goes. Because our minds and our egos just seriously want to be in charge and screw everything up. So that's a real beautiful shift.
So, yeah, and the next step will come in, as you said. More also writes, Michael, I'd like to know about your contemplative practices during the day. That's probably too long a discussion. But I mean, I'm involved in contemplation all the time. I have a few spiritual practices. I mean, I spend time just opening to the presence and resting in the divine presence. That's my number one spiritual practice, is resting in the presence. And it doesn't have to be long, but I spend time in the space between breaths. I spend time in the space between thoughts. I shouldn't describe it as time. But I do. I engage awareness of the space between breaths and between thoughts all through the day. I have some Taoist spiritual practices, Neigong, internal alchemy, that is like Chinese Taoist Kundalini yoga. And I don't spend a lot of time doing it anymore. When I was young, I spent 8 to 12 hours a day doing contemplative practice. Now I don't spend that much time, but I do a particular breath work, and I sit in simple Taoist meditation, which is a lot like Zen. I sit in an asana in a half lotus with my hands in the cosmic mudra, and I just let myself go. As Master Lu, my teacher, said, you just sit, you forget yourself. Okay? And there's so many other things. I've explored so many contemplative practices that the contemplative way is just a part of me. I've always got one of my feet in that still, infinite, translucent field of pure awareness and being that goes by many names. So let's see, Ekaterina. Drew Barrymore was the one with the dog, and I'm like her sometimes too. Nice.
Nice.
I could feel you being touched by that one when I read it. In answer to Michael Christopher's question, is there a better way to learn and grow besides, making brilliant mistakes? Morey writes, being compassionate and loving to ourselves when we make mistakes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And about, contemplative practices, I think maybe more next week. Because it is time to go on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Great questions. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, let me make sure I didn't leave somebody hanging. Okay. Over on Vimeo. Didn't. So all is well. So go ahead and close your eyes and open your heart to the presence. Invoke the presence. The divine presence lives within you at the center of your being. As a matter of fact, the divine presence lives everywhere. There's nowhere where the divine presence is not. So, just welcome the presence. The presence is seeking you. The presence, the divine, is seeking every one of us to bring us home. We don't know how to do it. We're not expected to. It's all a grace-filled journey of discovery and transformation. So allow it to be. Allow the presence to flood you with grace. Let the flowering heart blessing flood your being through and through. It will illuminate your spirit. It will clear and heal and inspire your mind and your emotions. It will heal and strengthen your physical body and your relationships and shine through you out into the world to touch and to transform others. Just receive the blessing. Drink it in, soak it up, breathe it in. If you're carrying a weight tonight, a problem, let it go into the divine. Just release it to the divine, who is all powerful, all knowing, all wise, and all unconditional love. The divine knows exactly what to do and has the ability to get it done. But if we hold on to it and worry about it, we can get in the way of the miracle of grace. So just release it and drink in the presence. This evening we're going to go right into the light meditation. So, when you're ready, you can open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes. During the light meditation, Suzanne and I are flooded with oceans of grace, divine love, light, awakened consciousness, and it streams through every part of our being to you, especially through our eyes, which have been called the doorways of the soul. So as you just keep looking, the divine light shines out through our eyes, into your heart of hearts, causing the light of awakening and the fires of divine transforming love to burn brighter within you. Just keep looking and relax. There's nothing for you to do. eyes now. Meditate with us a few more moments as the grace settles within you. Meditating as long as you like, or lie down nearby in Shavasana. Shavasana is a yoga pose where you lie on your back with your eyes closed and your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward. And just let yourself dissolve in the presence and gratitude. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessing.
Till we meet again, know that the divine in us beholds the divine in you, and we bow to you.